What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Dungeon Master Experience. In this video, we're diving into the fantastic Dungeon Master Experience articles by Chris Perkins. He's one of the lead designers of Dungeons & Dragons. We'll explore his invaluable insights and advice to enhance your skills as a Dungeon Master and create unforgettable D&D experiences for your players.
What's up, y'all? This article's from June 30th, 2011, and it's called All Talk. Now, if I had to guess based on the title what this article's about, I would say it's probably about the social interaction parts of the game. And like I say, I haven't read these articles in advance and planned out what I'm going to say. I read them along with you, and I try to react authentically to what I'm reading here to you. So anyway, this is the 20th article in the series, and if you want to find the others or listen to them all in order, there's a playlist on my channel, and additionally, I will link the playlist in the description. But now, let's get into the article. Monday night. In the previous session, the heroes fought a Death Knight armed with a soul-draining sword. 2 of them fell prey to the weapon. Once the Death Knight was destroyed, the surviving heroes sought to free their companions' souls from the hungry blade. Osternath, a lich with connections to the god Vecna, and she assured them the souls would be freed by bathing the sword in the blood of a virtuous god. Fortunately for them, she happened to have the blood of a slain lawful good deity in her workshop. Unfortunately, things did not go as planned. The blood completely destroyed the sword and the souls along with it. The lich apologized profusely and tried to make amends. She offered to instead implant an artificial heart in one of the fallen heroes, Nick DiPetrillo's character, the sword mage Uriel. But the heart was designed to pump necrotic sludge through the veins of its beneficiary. Implanting it would effectively transform Uriel into an undead creature. The heroes considered and rejected Osternath's offer, but they did bring the lich and their dead friends back to Uriel's ship, the Maelstrom, and consoled Uriel's distraught widow. They also conferred with a more trustworthy NPC ally, a dragonborn priestess, and asked her to petition Bahamut for advice on how to save the souls of their dead friends. A commune ritual bore no fruit. The priestess concluded that their souls were well and truly lost. Meanwhile, left to her own devices, the lich gently persuaded Uriel's widow that undead Uriel was better than no Uriel at all. And so, the lich obtained permission to implant the necrotic heart in Uriel's corpse. Nick returned the following week with a new version of his character built using the new vampire class from the player option Heroes of Shadow as a chassis. The heroes, not fond of the new Uriel, were troubled by the audacity of the lich, Osternath. They were also distressed to learn that Uriel needed the life's breath of living creatures to survive in his undead state. Uriel's widow, a genasi named Pearl, diffused a tense confrontation between the lich Uriel and his former companions by offering her own life's breath to sustain her undead husband. Then, as the Maelstrom made port on the island of Severasa, a group of dwarves in league with the Iron Star Cartel approached them for assistance. Frost giants had seized an important mine that the dwarves needed to finish building an iron ship, a prototype vessel that they hoped would earn them a lucrative shipbuilding contract with the Dragovar Empire. To save her own skin and redeem herself in the eyes of the heroes, Osternath used her apparent omniscience to ascertain that a rival consortium, the Winterleaf Coster, was employing the Frost Giants to delay the completion of the iron ship long enough to swoop in and steal the contract from under the Iron Star Cartel's nose. Convinced that the lich was speaking the truth, the heroes confronted the Winterleaf Coster and threatened to expose their plot if they didn't withdraw the Frost Giants from the mine immediately. They were very persuasive. As always, the lore from Chris's games seems pretty epic. My top takeaways from this are that the heroes try to free the souls of their friends from a sword with the help from a lich, but in the end result was the souls got destroyed. One of the souls, which was the fallen hero Uriel, was actually turned undead by a artificial heart, and the lich convinced the widow to allow it to be done, rather than the player characters. The fact that Uriel needs the life breath of a living creature to survive seems to be causing some inter-party conflict, which is interesting. And then, on top of that, the widow offers her life's breath to keep her husband going as an undead. And finally, the heroes expose the plot by the Winterleaf Consortium to use the Frost Giants in the area to delay the dwarves from building a iron ship. That's all really good stuff, man. Let's continue on and see what Chris has to say about all this. My Monday night group is a very different animal from my Wednesday night group. If the Wednesday players don't get to kill something every session, they think I'm punishing them. The Monday group, on the other hand, is more willing to entertain the notion of a diceless session. They also have more tolerance for entertaining NPCs of conspicuously evil bent. Osterneth the Lich was ripped from the pages of Open Grave, Secrets of the Undead, although I made a few tweaks to her history to accommodate the campaign. As the 1,000-year-old ex-wife of the Archwizard-turned-god Vecna, Osterneth is a tremendous source of information, and the Monday Night group is naturally hesitant to make an enemy of her. I'd like to say her heart's in the right place, but in truth, she's a lich with bones of bronze, and the desiccated black heart hovering inside her hollow ribcage actually belongs to her ex. Her connection to the God of Secrets gives her access to information the heroes need to complete their quests, and she's courteous enough to conceal her true form behind the illusion of a beautiful and charming Valtese noblewoman. But to the point, the events described above played out over 2 game sessions, during which time the players made 0 attack rolls. It was a role-player's bonanza, and the hardest part for me was keeping all of the player characters involved. Even those who don't typically take center stage during role-playing encounters were on the hook. Case in point, Jeff Alvarez's character, the sword-wielding elf ranger Kith'Valar, is the silent killer of the group. Whenever I noticed that Kith'Valar had dropped out of the spotlight for too long, Osterneth would exchange playful banter with him, or a member of the Maelstrom crew would try to split a bottle of rum with him and offer an unsolicited opinion about recent events. When the heroes were threatening agents of the Winterleaf Coster, I tried to establish a relationship between Kith'Valar and the villainous Talia Winterleaf, the elf daughter of the Coster's founder. It's fun to watch a character known for his brutal savagery confront an enemy he can't kill, at least not without foiling the party's plans and earning the enmity of a politically powerful organization. Although everyone seemed to be having fun, I always feel like I should apologize to my players when we have a session that's all talk. At the end of the session, I told them, next week you'll get to kill something, I promise. The players gave me dismissive gestures, and Peter Schaefer, who currently plays Metis, Osterneth's treacherous changeling manservant, exclaimed, "Are you kidding? These are my favorite sessions." More than once during these sessions, I was certain a fight would break out, but the players never went there. Things probably would have played out differently on Wednesday night. I guess that's why the players in the Wednesday group often joke that the Monday players sit around the table drinking tea while they're busy cracking skulls and fart jokes. And we have a piece of art here. It's a young, healthy-looking woman who is next to a mirror, and in the mirror you can see a reflection of a horrible undead creature. And the chat bubbles say, "Don't hate me because I'm beautiful." So that's supposed to be Osterneth the Lich looking at herself in the mirror. Now, as far as Chris's point goes about an all-talk session, these do happen from time to time, but it's pretty rare. But there are some groups that somehow pride themselves on this kind of thing. To each their own, and however you want to play the game, that's how you play the game. But I can definitely see his point about making sure that everybody stays engaged and not just the 1 or 2 people that love doing the talking and the funny voices, especially if you have a larger group of players. If you have just 3 or 4 players, then this kind of session could be quite easy to run. But if you're sitting there with 8 friggin' people, like some of the games these days, it could be much more difficult to not have people playing on their phones and stuff like that while people are playing pretend with each other instead of having a combat or something like that. But anyway, let's see what Chris's lessons learned are. Lessons learned. There's no shortage of Dungeons & Dragons players in Renton, Washington, so back when I was building my 2 game groups, I tried to put birds of a feather together. The Monday group thinks the Wednesday group is comprised of uncouth savages, while the Wednesday group thinks the Monday players get all their XP from story awards rather than combat challenges. These perceptions are mostly false. The 2 groups are more alike than not, but running 2 different groups of players has taught me that despite their subtle differences in playstyles, I can always get away with combat-free sessions provided all the players are pulled into the role-playing fray. I also believe the players, not the Dungeon Master, get to decide when the talking stops and the fighting begins. I'm never disappointed when a player shouts, "Enough talk! Time to die," because that invariably leads to 2 of the sweetest words in the Dungeons & Dragons lexicon. Roll initiative. Any Dungeon Master can survive the dreaded all-talk session, but it'll be most fun for all concerned if you hold fast to the following suggestions. Pool all of the players into the role-playing fray, kicking and screaming if necessary, and let the players decide when the talking's over. As a quick footnote, I'd like to give props to Calvin K. of Lincoln, Nebraska, for his magnificent minion entry, which came in at the tail end of the contest, the Wacky Wall of Flesh. Each wall minion comes with 1 random graft, an eye that projects a psychic bolt, a mouth that roars, an arm that delivers a real punch, or a tentacle that slides you around. It doesn't get much weirder than that, folks. Next week, we'll discuss the cinematic art of bringing back dead heroes and villains, and the wonderful havoc that can ensue if you time it just right. Until the next encounter. Well, I think that was a good article on an important Dungeon Master topic, which is the all talk session. And I think the main takeaway here is pretty obvious, is to make sure that all the players get to have their turn talking if it's an all talk session, and don't let anybody be left out. Now, that's always good general advice for any session, for anything you're doing, but especially in this kind of session. So if you think about it, in a game where combat is involved, because of the initiative structure, everybody has a built-in turn where it's your turn. But in a free-form role-playing, there's just a gang of gangly people walking through the streets of town talking to people as a weird group. It's kind of hard for all 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people, players, to talk one-on-one when they're talking to somebody. It's not, it doesn't make sense in a real social context. You don't go to a party where there's like a group of like, let's say there's 6 people all huddled in a group and they're like going from person to person talking to them. Imagine how awkward that would look in real life. Yeah. So you got to overcome that kind of thing and make sure everybody has their turn. But anyway, I hope you liked the video. And if you did like it, you could actually demonstrate that by clicking the like button. Pretty cool. And it looks like the next article is going to be about raising back dead heroes and villains and stuff like that. So that sounds pretty interesting as well. But if you want to keep up with that, I'll be posting that as soon as I get a chance to record it. See ya.